Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Brian Smith. I am the publisher at Inside the Knights on Fan Nation, powered by Sports Illustrated. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Georgia-Alabama game in regards to whether or not Kirby Smart will or will not turn loose Stetson Bennett, the quarterback for the Bulldogs, in round 2 of Alabama versus Georgia. 2 questions open-endedly right out the front gate. Number 1, should he turn him loose? And number 2, is he capable, Stetson Bennett, of leading Georgia on an improbable 1-minute drive, meaning whether end of the half, special situation, overtime, whatever it may be, if it comes down to a close and absolutely must-score situation for the Bulldogs? So with that, I'm going to open up with number 1 on my thoughts. Number 2 is a little bit easier, but number 1, you have a great defense and a front 7, but they're not built on rushing the passer. Even though Alabama has some injury concerns, I know that a lot of Alabama fans are freaking out about whether or not they're going to have certain guys on the line, how that would shift around. That is a concern, but we're not going to know anything about what Alabama is going to do. If anything in the last 20 years has taught us about Nick Saban, it's the following. He's not telling the media crap. So just throw that out. Let's just assume no matter how it gets there, it's 20-17, it's 40-37. Does Stetson Bennett have to throw the ball a lot and be aggressive on 1st down and 10? That's my premise for Georgia to beat Alabama. And this is my thought. I kind of posed this after they got beat by Alabama the first time, and I was in the hotel connected to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, and watching the Georgia Bulldog fans weave that stadium like it was a morgue was pretty hilarious, by the way. I don't know why they'd be shocked they got beat by Alabama. They always do. But he's capable of hitting hole shots. He's capable of hitting a slant in a tight window. That is true. There is a small difference in a gray area to discuss here, and that's whether or not he can do it consistently from quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4, all the way through. Because in the 4th quarter or at the end of half, you get the ball and you're down by 3 or up by 3. You want to, put points on the board. Just because you can doesn't mean it is your best idea. Say that to yourself. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Think about what you tell your kids. Think about what you tell your friends. Just because you can run by this snake doesn't mean you should. Just because you could ride that Bronco doesn't mean you should. I had some buddies once who thought it was a great idea to go ride a bull. I'll let you figure out how that ended. They could. They didn't for very long. Be careful for what you wish. Stetson Bennett needs to be Stetson Bennett, and he can make throws. It's a misconception that he doesn't have arm talent at all. But it is also a misconception that he's going to out-quarterback Bryce Young. And therein lies the gray area. It is an incredibly difficult task that Kirby Smart and his staff has in this next game. Incredibly difficult. They need to find a way to make him a superstar when he's not. And what I mean by that is making the play. You're not going to just slow down Bryce Young. He is a machine. I don't give a care one way in the world about what Georgia can do against the run. Alabama might run it 10 times. And most of the time, you'd say, well, if you want to run it 10 times against us, you're going to beat us. Maybe even 99.5% of the teams in college football, that's true, but Bryce Young plays for one team, Alabama. He goes against all the regulations and norms of college football tradition. Win the running game, you win the game and all that. And it's so ironic because Alabama is the most old school program, arguably, in college football. But it's still true. He's just different. There is no playbook for stopping somebody that is in that mold. Kyler Murray, there's certain guys, they get away from the rush and they make a throw. It's not defensible. You have to score. If Georgia does not score 35 or more, they will lose this game. Stetson Bennett is going to have to be a part of that because you're not just going to run the ball against Will Anderson in that defense and go, you know what, we're just going to kick the crap out of them. Alabama gives up less than 90 yards a game. Why in the world would they suddenly give up like 220 to Georgia? In a consistent, there's a very important part. Let me clarify. In a consistent manner. If you pop a 75 run, that's a bonus. You need to physically beat the crap out of Alabama, which isn't going to happen, and move the ball. That way Stetson can pick his spots. So again, we're back to that in between gray matter point. Where is it? Where do we find this one spot where he's pretty darn accurate? He can make a whole shot and we can score. You need to be able to put points on the board from outside the 20. You do not want to give Will Anderson more snaps. You do not want to give anybody, really, in Alabama's front seven an extra chance to make a play in a constricted space. That's any defense. Kirby Smart and his guys are not stupid. They know all of this 10 times more than me or anybody else that's going to be watching this podcast, but that doesn't make it any easier to come up with a plan to do something about it. So with that, I'm going to bleed into the final point with this. If Georgia is going to beat Alabama, two things need to happen beyond Bennett, and then he's the cherry on top. That's all he is. He is not a great quarterback. He is a good college quarterback. He can make some plays, but he cannot be the consistent person that beats Alabama. Screens, changing the play call, changing the line protection, all those things. I totally trust that guy. Why? Because that's the kind of guy Kirby Smart feels comfortable with. And to say that Kirby Smart has a very, very, very small comfort zone with offensive football, and especially with anything with the pigskin in the air, is like saying the sun's going to come out tomorrow. Kirby Smart is not a good offensive coach. He's just not. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have a ton of talent around him that they can get the ball to. Alabama is going up against a great group of running backs, and we'll see how Mr. Pickens is in terms of health. Remember, he was just kind of getting back into it at the SEC title game. They need to get a whole shot to him in between the safety in the corner or something. Then he makes a guy miss, breaks it down. They need a special play like that. Ironically, Jamison Williams made multiple against their defense because this is not your typical Georgia corners in terms of experience. They got talent, but they don't have quite the experience across the board in their top 3 or 4 corners, and it hurt them against Alabama in the first matchup, and it'll probably hurt them again. They're going to have to find a way to make something happen with Stetson. It may be only 2 or 3 plays, but you could still win doing that. Georgia could absolutely win this game. But my final point is this. Until you prove it, you are not the team. I could care less about Georgia, and I could care less about Alabama. Don't like either one. Don't care. But I do tell you this much. I trust the guy that keeps winning, and that's Nick Saban. Even if those offensive linemen don't play in the game, I'll take Alabama. Straight up. Why? Nick Saban. Kirby Smart has not proven he's a great big game coach. Prove me wrong. With that, I hope everybody has a great day, and we will see in about a week who wins the national title.